Hello, David. Here we are for, I believe, our 16th episode of No Art, No Life. And
I believe that more and more every time I talk to you.
our mantra of No Art, No Life.
No art, no life, and without art, what would we be? I mean, what that part of humanity is the blessed part, the godlike part. If we didn't have art, we really would have nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't know how to appreciate trees. Trees started to become part of our consciousness through the great landscape artists. We just saw things until there was perspective by Masaccio and a few others. We just looked, but we didn't understand the formations. It's taken a long time for us to become what we are. And what are we? I'll ask you that question.
At this moment,
Yeah.
do you mean? I think people certainly standing on a line, on a precipice, as we've been discussing whether or not what may succeed us, people suspect may be some kind of improvement, meaning some kind of robot that doesn't in any way endure illness or mortality, and yet certainly doesn't seem the solution that we require. We seem to be descending in proportion to the solutions that we come up with in order to try to ameliorate even pain and even mystery.
Well, we've done away very well with mystery, haven't we? Every TV series is a formula. You know exactly when you'll see the water. You'll see the trees from a helicopter 14 times during the series on Netflix or whatever.
And do you think that's because a boardroom has such a producer's role that reigns over the director that we see these same cliches all the time, or is the medium exhausted?
No, it's not the medium itself. The medium itself can be improved every day. It's the people who have no interest in going beyond formula. For formula itself is so monotonous and boring. So when I see these things, I mean, I know exactly what's coming. I even know what the script will be. You know, I mean,
Yes.
it's just so boring. And of course, at night, like everyone else, I sit there like an idiot. But not a robot, an idiot.
Yes.
I'd rather be an idiot than a robot.
Well, see, that, can you maybe elaborate on that distinction? See, there's a great distinction.
I think you know what it is. I think you should talk.
Well, I would suspect that an idiot still is subject to what the environment presents that person, and
Yes.
what sentiment and what even imagine deleterious elements of the human personality, even laziness, even those things that maybe we think are regrettable at the same time can even serve poetic elements.
Yes.
That used to be called lassitude, or a kind of
Yes.
langueur, when we feel lazy.
Langueur
Yes.
or ennui, I can't produce today. Or
Yes. Whereas the machine, the robot, will never know any of those fallibilities, and hence is doomed to omniscience, doomed to a stasis of immortality that will lead nowhere.
Yes, it will lead to nowhere. Just as all of this stuff that's produced for screen or radio, what is radio but a wasteland for this horrifying stuff called popular music? Popular music? No, that was once, good stuff. You remember those lyrics or those tunes. You even remember some of the things that were thrown at you in advertisement because they had some cleverness.
Yes.
Where is cleverness gone? Where has, first of all, I don't want to ever see an artificial intelligence or a machine, actually of any kind. I mean, if you want, we can get rid of these machines right now, even the air conditioning machine.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't care. I don't care about the light bulb. I remember very well when the light bulb, all of the lights went out in a blackout in New York in a certain year, maybe
Was
70s.
it 1977, I think?
Something like that. I mean, there were two blackouts that I remember. I was practicing, I remember the F minor Etude Transcendental of Liszt, which at that time I could play. And it all went blank. I lived across from, on 2nd Avenue. I looked outside, every single light's gone, everything is gone, it's great. I put a candle on and I continued practicing. What do I need the lights for?
Well,
I'm sorry, Mr. Edison, you know.
you know, this may not be related, but as we think about the passing of time and the artificial increase in machines, and yet if we think of what might be significant in change in art, I had mentioned to you earlier today that looking back in my notebooks about conversations from years ago, I had asked you a question that I thought you had a really remarkable answer for. And that was the idea of works that we think of as having joined the canon recently. Would someone of another time of equal canonization be able to grapple with it? And I gave you the example of if I could get into a time machine and take, let's say, Copland's Piano Variations.
Oh, yes.
A very austere, tight work where every note is chosen. Do we agree that there's no filigree in that? There's no excess at all. It's a pure skeleton of an organism that he creates. And if one could take that and then put it on Beethoven's piano rack and be there, let's say, circa 1801, what would Beethoven make of that? I had asked you, would he be able to grapple with the intention there? And I thought you had a very remarkable answer.
Well, I think that that in 1801 Beethoven was beginning to feel, he's 31 years old, the beginnings of the deafness. So he may have taken it over to the piano because he could still hear.
Okay.
And maybe he would look at it. And he would definitely understand the abstract quality of Copland's mind there. But he wouldn't care about the piece because the piece has no mood. Yes, every variation of Beethoven, if you notice, has a certain little mood which is inimitable. It is always totally different in one way or another than the previous variation. In the sonata form, he's not interested at all in just, you know, formal beauty. This is always a part of his work because he's the greatest abstract mind I think that ever lived. But yes, I would say he is above any mathematician. I don't know anything about mathematics, but I'm...
You would also remark, if I may, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but this is what I had put in my notebook when I thought I had heard you say it, that he would be able to grasp the intention and the form and a lot of the motivations, but he wouldn't understand the need for that aesthetic articulation. As if he couldn't forecast how, let's imagine, tonality and all sorts of traditional things could possibly erode so much over, let's say, what, about 120 years before the Copland variations come into being. So that you said the real distinction would be he wouldn't understand the need for that manner of articulation. Does that sound right? And then I posed
No,
to you...
he wouldn't understand the need because for him, the great sonata form was a form that would tell a great story. Do you remember he always says there's a story behind it? He actually says this. This is not. This is important.
Do you mean
Beethoven?
in a real programmatic way?
No, he doesn't think that way.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's so simplistic.
So what do you mean?
That there is a root of some aspect of inspiration that began it. It could have been walking on the streets of Vienna and it was the profile of a beautiful woman, or someone that he, or some sunsets. I mean, he didn't look at the moon and write the Moonlight Sonata. The critic Rellstab in Berlin said, "Oh, I heard the Moonlight, and it became the Moonlight Sonata." What a shame, because what does the second movement have to do with Moonlight, or the third movement? And take a look at what Kempf says so well, the great pianist Kempf. Yes, okay, you can see Moonlight, but much more, much more. There's also a little aspects of the sonata form within it. It's so big, Beethoven, that it's almost ridiculous to try to describe him.
So by the story, you mean the impulse to create art as a story?
It's an impulse to create art as a great mood, as a great
okay.
Synthesizer of inner tensions and emotions and suffering. Now, by Copland's time, 1930, the variations for piano, he'd already gotten rid of his elementary works, Passacaglia, and that he did under Nadia Boulanger, and then this extremely good organ symphony, and which still sounds okay. And then he writes a jazz piano concerto. What was he doing with all of these idioms? You know, he's figuring out what he can do with himself, because remember, his career will be the end of composition as we know it. I mean, by the time he's done trying to putter around with 12-tone stuff like in the piano quartet, music's vocabulary is over with, in the great sense of romantic charm or sensuality or Tristan or Beethoven Ninth. All of these works are moods. They're not pitter patter Haydn, you know, which any one of those little tunes of Haydn, Beethoven could do a whole development section on, you see. But he's not interested in Rococoism. That's over with. He's a product of the French Revolution, and he likes Napoleon. He's going to write a symphony for him, and then he finds out he's going to just be a dictator, and when he becomes emperor, and he tears it up, so to speak. All of these stories are very good, but they have nothing to do with music at all. Beethoven's creative process are, as Sullivan would say of the late quartet, states of consciousness, of things, of irritabilities even, you know, these little pregnant motifs that he would, that really disturbed me. Remember, people were used to suffering then. Suffering every minute, from tuberculosis, from syphilis, from cancer, from everything we have today. We could have doubled it. And a great deal of environmental problems that, you know, we didn't think of then, but that were very real and vicious. And you had to formulate how you were going to get out of it. You couldn't even probably take a Bayer aspirin. You see.
Right.
There is no such thing.
David, you mentioned Sullivan.
Suffering is a big thing in the world.
Yes.
And it has to be understood as a creative concept.
You had, forgive me for taking a step back. You had mentioned Sullivan. Is that the author of that little book of Beethoven's spiritual development? Do I have the title correct?
Beethoven and His Spiritual Development.
Yes.
A little book of 150 pages that was written in 1927 for the centenary of Beethoven's death.
You think very highly of that, because I believe in your interview with Vladimir Ashkenazi, you both referenced the book.
Yes, he said that book is more important now than ever before. And yes, I think so. I think there are things now in it that are maybe a little that I don't agree with, even in the sense that he doesn't consider the slow movement of Opus 10 number 3, the great D minor movement in the D major sonata, Opus 10 number 3. as great. I consider that as a great Greek drama, the greatest work of the early years, at least in the piano sonata. It's devastating. I wish that Beethoven had never put it in the sonata, because it should be an opening piece, just alone. Stands 7 minutes, and who plays it so wonderfully? My goodness, a man that's not supposed to play Beethoven. Remember, all these things that we listen to are totally untrue. Some of the most interesting Beethoven playing is Horowitz, and does he play the D minor slow movement of the D major sonata better, I think, than anyone. But once again, I always reserve the right for my own mood, and that mood that day may find that I don't care for Horowitz. It's very important to not stick by things, I think, in everything. That's a painting or a novel or whatever. I just read a novel by Jean Rhys, this English woman born in Dominica in the Caribbean, and I can't believe anything could be written so poorly. That there's no editor, that there's no anything to get out. I mean, just ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. But she sold me the story, you see.
Okay.
So I was okay about it, and I finished it, and it was small enough.
It's a new novel?
No, it's 1928.
Oh, okay.
Long ago.
How did you come to it?
Well, I came to it because I knew her letters.
Okay.
And she was a, dissolute, very depressed woman. She had known Ford Madox Ford. That was her mentor, so to speak. But she wrote Sargasso Sea and a couple of other novels that had a real impact.
Is that the novel that is the imagined prelude to another novel? When you call it Sargasso Sea, is it also called Wide Sargasso Sea?
What?
Is the title also Wide Sargasso Sea?
Yeah, it's another word, but I'm not sure. I never read it, I'm afraid.
Is it? Again, I may be making a fool out of myself, but is it an imagined preamble to Jane Eyre, or
something like that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I read something about that somewhere. All right. Yeah. Well, this one. Could this be possible? Could this be the work of a writer, forgetting the jargon of the 1920s? And yet she's considered pretty good.
And it's not a translation. English is the language.
No, it's English.
Okay.
Yes. And I came to it as I come to many things through the letters that they're published. I love letters. They make me friends.
Yes.
Of the I know you're reading the Byron letters right now, and that is like.
They are glorious.
My God, I mean, this man was a great man. God.
And it brings up a topic that we were talking about last week, because the novels of Richardson interest me.
Yes.
And so I asked you this question, because when I was reading the letters of Byron, I thought to myself, did Richardson, of course they're not contemporaries, but close enough.
Yeah.
Did Richardson capture the spirit of an age in his novels, where the engagement and self-examination and the true correspondence, meaning reacting to every phrase and idea of your correspondent, was that the temperament of the age? Or is someone like a Byron looking at the idealized, romanticized, fantasized version of correspondence that Richardson creates out of wishful thinking? Is Byron making that real? Or is Byron just reflecting, again, the temperament of an age where people were so devoted to self-examination in writing that was the case? Am I putting my case clearly?
Yes, I know. And I think it's a little of both there.
Okay.
I think that Byron is as Byronic as he is. He truly exposes everything in his soul in a way so fresh, spontaneous. But the Richardson if you look at 18th century letters at their best, like Mozart's and so forth, there is that, you could see if Mozart was writing a novel, he would care a little more about what he was trying to say because he was trying to expose the age as well.
Yes.
And yet Mozart had no interest in the age in his letters. That's interesting. There's there's nothing about the French
I've heard
Revolution
that. One
or whatever.
looks in vain for any allusion to current events.
No. He doesn't even care to see landscape outside. He tells his father, close the windows of the stagecoach. I don't want to be upset by the which again she says, Mozart's genius is of such purity. He does not want any interference in his mind or brain or colors or anything. It's so pure, it's so distinguished as itself that he needs nothing in the world but the tones.
It's interesting because then Byron seems to be the polar opposite in a way. Now Richardson, we know all the letters in his novels are coming from his own mind, so in a sense he's imagining these correspondences that maybe one could only wish for, that this tremendous masterful letter it will also get a masterful answer from another mind, but they're all of course coming from his. Now Byron's letters, I don't know if an edition exists where one can see the letters that he's answering, because I can't imagine but that Byron is always taking whatever he's getting, whether it might just be a small bit of practical correspondence or something a little bit more agent, and he always creates something that makes me think he has an idealized correspondent, even though I don't see the other letters.
This is the greatest compliment you could give Lord Byron, because that's exactly what he does, in my opinion.
Yes.
He's a master of that.
A master of the opposite of Mozart. In other words, taking everything outside of him and saying, I'll make something of it, including, as you were saying, suffering, illness.
Oh,
all of the
absolutely.
illnesses
And
are...
I mean, you know, when they talk about the Byronic aspects of Manfred or Cain or all of those, when you start reading parts of them, you wonder why they disappeared. Again, they disappeared because the critics did not want Byronism any longer, and they wanted to say, okay, Auden would push constantly for Don Juan in its comic spirit. No, Byron in all aspects of his endeavors, his creativity, is phenomenal. There is no bad poem. There is no bad play. Manfred is exactly what Schumann thought when he wrote his Manfred Overture, or Tchaikovsky his Manfred Symphony. It is that marvelous, creature.
And also, David, because you so often remind me of the wonderful mantra of never putting another's head above one's own.
Never do that, because then you're through.
Yes. I came across this, which I thought was wonderful. Well, because Emerson always has that phrase that, you should speak your latent conviction, otherwise eventually you're going to hear it from someone else.
Yes, and it's the truth, isn't it?
Yes, because look, lo, here and behold, I certainly respect Shakespeare, and I've taken many cracks at it.
I keep trying
with him,
this greatest of all artists, and the greatest living writer of all time.
Right, and I don't mean to
sell myself... Any language.
Right, and sell myself short and intimate by that I don't, in the plainest sense, not understand what I'm reading. But I don't come away with that solitary sense of thinking that I have met with something that has elevated my private experience, and that I don't care who knows about it, but I feel like it's my private ownership. And lo and behold, I came across Byron suddenly saying, Shakespeare's name, you may depend on it, stands absurdly too high and will go down. He had no invention as to stories, none whatever. He took all his plots from old novels and threw their stories into a dramatic shape at as little expense of thought as you or I could turn his plays back again into prose tales. That he threw over whatever he did write some flashes of genius, nobody can deny. But this was all. Suppose anyone to have the dramatic handling for the first time of such ready-made stories as Lear, Macbeth, and so forth, and he would be a sad fellow indeed if he did not make something very grand of them. As for his historical plays, properly historical, I mean, they were mere redressings of former plays on the same subjects, and in 20 cases out of 21, the very finest things are taken all but verbatim out of the old affairs. You think, no doubt, that a horse, my kingdom for a horse is Shakespeare's? Not a syllable of it. You will find it all in the old nameless dramatist. Could not one take up Tom Jones and improve it without being a greater genius than Fielding? I, for my part, think Shakespeare's plays might be improved. And the public seem, and have seemed to think so too, for not one of his is or ever has been acted as he wrote it. And what the pit applauded 300 years past is 5 times out of 10 not Shakespeare's, but Cibber's. Is that how we said that name? Like Colley Cibber, or was it, the contemporary of Shakespeare, Cibber?
I don't know.
That's one of those names. We've discussed this topic too. When one becomes consigned to be a reader in this age, we less and less hear the words that we need to hear spoken.
We don't know so many words because nobody's saying them. Names and words, and
right.
Our vocabulary is so slender. Cool, man.
That, I'm afraid, too many people know how to say.
Oh, every time. That's a prison sentence for each person.
And yet, isn't it
1 hour in
yes.
Cool prison.
And isn't it awful, though, because it does rob us of a word that has meaning if it wasn't attached to that colloquial invocation.
Yes.
Because
yes.
we used to be able something, and see, I can't even do it now, to say, I stepped out, and for some reason, the woman in her confidence suggested a coolness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no matter what, the word will have the other overtone.
Oh my goodness, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There's no chance for it.
Yes.
For it, and many other words, of course.
Yes.
But you were saying something about Byron, and you see, he didn't care who jotted down some mediocre thought to him about Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
Someone maybe did and said, I saw a Shakespearean play, and it was just meat for him to write, rhapsodically,
yes.
because he's so superior to any other letter writer of that time. Mm-hmm. They say that John Keats is a great letter writer, but I don't find him on the level of Byron.
Okay. Well, again, I owe it to you, David. I'm just beginning my journey with Byron's letters, but I've not been able to stop.
Well, the personality is so large.
Yes.
It influences everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter who it is. You could dislike him, you could like him, but he's present in the 19th century as no one else, because he's also, he's part of the great democratic ascendancy too. A lord who goes to fight and dies in Missolonghi, the muds of Missolonghi,
yes.
of malaria. Think of it.
Just
36 years old, he should be living 360 years.
Yes, the color alone.
Yeah, the color. Where's the color today?
And yet so many people feel that in this over-democratized society that everyone is expressing themselves. And yet we just seem overrun by a tsunami of duplicates. And yet, why would criticism try to suppress such beautiful articulation in a person, even outside their works and their letters, of personality? Why is personality seem such a rare commodity now?
Because it is.
But how did that happen?
How did that happen?
And why did criticism seem to make that a liability?
I don't know. It's a difficult question. Criticism made it a liability because the critics were so boring. Have you ever read some of the magazine articles that, you can't get through paragraph 1,
right.
and they're talking about, something important. There's no glamour left. That's the problem. We go too far with a basically unglamorous Marilyn Monroe. She's just not good enough. Just as her earlier ancestors weren't. Who was that one in these early movies? The blonde.
Oh, Jean Harlow?
Yeah, Jean Harlow.
Mhm.
Yes. Jean Harlow's face bothers me, you know, because she doesn't know how to use lipstick, or whoever decided to do it. Everything counts in glamour,
It
and
does,
Byron
yeah.
understood that. You see,
Yes.
he knew how to dress. He knew how to sword fight. He knew how to box.
Yes.
He knew how to swim better than anyone else. He knew how to. Everything about Byron was glamorous. And the world at that moment was ready for celebrities. Goethe had his Germanic celebrity, but there's a book by someone I can't remember. It's very thin. I've read it 5 times. It's the little relationship between Byron and Goethe. And Goethe is crazy about Byron. He's in love with him.
This is they knew each other personally, or was it by
No,
correspondence?
they never met.
It was by letter.
Oh, yeah, only little notes or
That's it.
this, or he was so enamored with the writing of Byron. And he was enamored with the personality, just as all the Germans were enamored, and the English and Americans who came to Weimar to see the great man, because he was the creator of something so fantastic. Not Faust, but the Sorrows of Young Werther, where everyone that read it was committing suicide.
Yes.
That's quite a big topic.
Yes.
And it's a book. I'll try to get it. I think it's by a man by the name of Butler, not the great Butler, of course. The
Not
Way of
Samuel
All
Butler.
Flesh. Yes.
Okay.
That incredible novel. So it was the moment in time. Within 5, 6 years, Liszt would become a celebrity. Paganini was now, by 1827, 28, one of the great celebrities of the world. No pianist had yet appeared that would be greater celebrity than Paganini. The man was just so eerie. Talking about Frankenstein once recently, I said, you know, someone was saying something about Richardson, and I said, gosh, I think it was George Sand that was so influenced by Pamela and Clarissa.
Yes.
Richardson's works, and I found out because I was, you know, I said, is it George Sand? Is it? No, it was Mary Shelley.
Oh, yes.
Who was highly influenced by the writing of Richardson.
Yeah, Richardson seems to has gone out of just the canonical awareness, but the influence was great. I think that Jane Austen presumably even celebrated the birthdays of the characters from Sir Charles Grandison as part of family lore.
That's right.
As if these people were actual.
Yeah. So she took over the limelight in a way. I think she knew that too. Maybe who knows? I don't know. But these are all wonderful topics in literature and music. You know, when Beethoven, in that book we were just talking about, Sullivan's book on Beethoven's spiritual development, and he's talking of the late quartets, which I really do think that, you know, his writing is quite something there. And he says, even Shakespeare, that's taken for granted in England, it seems, even Shakespeare didn't write his C-sharp minor quartet.
You know, if we can go a little step further to something we were saying earlier today, and then we can share now. If the body of critical work can cause even the most independent thinker sometimes not to use their own critical thinking because something seems established. You were saying some remarkable things. Is it about Opus 79 of Beethoven? Which oftentimes I was telling you, as soon as I was a student as a teenager and looking at, let's say, the Juilliard pre-college application requirements, it would tell you all the sonatas you could play except Opus 79. And I had the opus number correct, don't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Because presumably they are too easy. But you were talking about how, in a sense, they may, in a sense, represent to a degree some of his finest thinking. And it even shattered my own impression.
It was a perfect piece of art.
Yes.
It's exquisite. 3 movements. The joy of the first movement, alla tedesca. Nobody is allowed to play it, and they don't. This is a work of the late middle period. Opus 81A is next. And it's a masterpiece of fun, and the slow movement is the Mendelssohn Song Without Word, the Venetian boat song.
Mm-hmm.
The last movement is a sketch for almost aspects of 101's first movement, even there, the way he uses the piano. Well, someone once said it's too easy, and it caught on, and it goes as far as the Juilliard Prep Division saying you cannot play that piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it was once published as sonatina. Well, I can tell you,
Oh.
it is not easy at all.
Yes, uh-huh.
First of all, is it easy to bring out of yourself joy?
No.
People don't
Yeah.
talk about that in the sense of interpretation.
Mhm.
Joy, misery, every emotion is in Beethoven, but I don't hear it. All I hear are notes.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The playing today is stupendously bad.
That's one of the joys I hear in hearing you say that, because in a way it's not a cynical thing to say. What it's calling for is the restoration of something that we can have.
I want that misery
Yes,
back in.
yes.
I want that Greek drama back in. I
Mhm.
want, as Busoni said, the Pathetique Sonata was revolutionary in 1799. Well, I want to play it that way.
Mhm.
So he's going to really give it the gun, so to speak. And
Mhm.
the critics, oh, but that's early Beethoven. It's earlier. We don't need to have it as big as Appassionata or
Mhm.
something like that, you see.
Mhm.
It's so nonsensical
Mhm.
what we've done to the art of interpretation even.
Mhm.
But yes, of course, the young pianists are just worried about what? Let's get it clean. Let's clean that up.
Mhm.
So everyone will be happy, but nobody is happy, you see.
I agree. Uh-huh.
No. You have to show the misery, the happiness, the eroticism. You have to show it. You have to show that it's in you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just play the Appassionata notes and say, oh, isn't that great? What a trill he has in the open. Who cares about it? Of
That is
course.
true. Mm-hmm. Is there any end to this problem, and how can it be toppled?
No, we're moving towards the, I guess, artificial intelligence playing the Appassionata. And it will certainly, look, the piano
Yeah.
itself is a steel, iron instrument of such fierce ugliness that the first thing a player has to do is to make it beautiful somehow again.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, David. Thank you. You just helped me, because, as you know, I like to talk about the process of journal keeping, not in any kind of mere appalling therapeutic way, which is what one encounters all the time when you meet somebody.
Of course.
And so that's the reason I even refrain really from referencing it much anymore, because I mean it in the sense of trying to, like a benign hoarding, catching anything I think I can use. And I had the piano tuner come over the other day, and I've been a little, I'm ashamed to say, neglectful of my practicing, and he asked me, is anything that he should know about? I said, no, it should be fine, the last time I left it. But then he suddenly came back from the room with the piano and said that D4, the D relatively near the middle of the instrument, I forget the name of the piece, but the little piece of metal that holds the strings down on the felt on top of the iron harp in the top, right where the tuning pegs had popped up.
Mm-hmm.
So he just said, obviously, he'd have to order this part.
Mhm.
And what I thought was remarkable is, despite what you're saying on how ugly, in a sense, even the very notion of this iron thing coming out of the Industrial Revolution, and no longer do we have wood and the earthen elements that the early pianos had. Notwithstanding that, the piano tuner even shared with me the joy of reminding one how much stress that object, the piano, the thousands of pounds of pressure, that even in silence it's holding. And so that the acts of nature, when I was not even touching the piano, caused an action within it. And it made me think, first of all, what was significant about D4, that it should act as if on its own to remove itself from my piano. And all of those things seem to have meanings that I've yet to grapple with. But what I wanted to say is that even in its iron, there are elements of nature that the artificial intelligence, when we sit in Carnegie Hall one day and someone presses for AI, and after we read the playbill, that AI is now going to perform the Opus 7 of Beethoven, and gets to that wonderful slow movement in C with all the silences, well, it won't know the stresses even of the iron that leave us even vulnerable, perhaps almost to the deadly bullwhip of a string breaking on its own because of gravity and all sorts of stresses. It will never know these things, and the risks that people are taking for the sake of the idea of some possible immortality, a world with no illness, a world with no vulnerability, is absolutely the critical moment of our time.
Yeah.
And that it's like where we began today. Even our illnesses are things that no one wants to be ill, no one wants to die, but at the same time, people of the past that we're talking about, like Byron, they knew how to savor even the metaphorical grist in those things. And I think the mere therapeutic culture that we have now, of the idea that any opposition has to be something that we conquer. We even hear that when people become ill, they beat cancer.
Oh, yeah.
I always think, I understand, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or in any way sound insensitive, but there's a misconception there. Because again, these artists of the past knew that everything was metaphorical grist. And I think that, to me, is the joy that's coming out in Byron. Because there are candid lists of the most untoward venereal disease listings that he'll put in there, and somehow at the end, without being flippant in a letter, there'll be a joyful notion that seems to almost say that he's still happy to be here because he interpreted it all. And again, with such color.
Yeah, and the word interpret is, as Henry Miller said, one of the most important words in the language.
Mm-hmm.
We don't interpret the music, we don't interpret literature,
Mm-hmm.
We don't love poetry at all,
Mm-hmm.
we don't care about sculpture, we don't care about dance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have a few virtuosi like Nureyev or Baryshnikov come to America through a political stunt, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, dance has another 3 or 4 years. There's no Balanchines in the world now. There's no great dancing. There's very mechanical dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But so you were talking about even the health of a person counts, and let's say you're Alfred Brendel, and Brendel says to me when I ask him about the slow movement of the Opus 7, which you had just
Yes.
uttered, the slow
Yeah.
movement, which you know demands so many silences.
Mm-hmm.
And Brendel says to me, actually, listen, it's marvelous. He says, yes, I don't like to play Opus 7, you know, in public too much because of the coughing in the silences
Mm-hmm.
of the slow movement.
Mm-hmm.
There, my God, you see.
I mean, what a piece that slow movement of Opus 7, where that people, if they were to metaphorically apply it to their lives, they would realize, in a sense, the bookends that they can genuinely give to their silent moments, and how it can have shapes, that things that have no definition, no three-dimensional or four-dimensional, well, they have four-dimensional aspects, but how Beethoven contextualizes as much the silence by placing these glorious bookends. I think it's a tremendously glorious movement, the second movement of Opus 7.
Stravinsky was told about John Cage's 4 minutes of silence, and Beethoven would have said the same thing. In fact, he would have heard the silence, and Stravinsky said, "Oh, I hope he writes more works like that."
Yes.
More silent works. Oh my goodness.
And yet, you know, comedy aside, in a sense, that piece is romantically hoping an audience could imagine with their own bookends what Beethoven is giving you as a guide for the contextualized silence between elevated utterances.
I understand that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very generous thing to give to the audience.
Yeah.
I always forget.
Well, of course, silence itself is a generous thing these days.
Mm-hmm. Is the name of the piece, is it the Cage piece, what is it, 4
The
minutes?
431 or
430,
something.
I can't ever remember the exact number. But I always think of it that way, after when it was introduced in a early music history class to me. You know, there's always a chuckle in the room, but I always thought, well, what it is a real generous act. It's as if people have really understood the silences in the great canonical pieces, and now they will live in that.
Oh, I think you're very
that
right.
space.
I think it's very good. Yeah, I never put it down as Stravinsky did because the 4 minutes will give you, if you're listening, many sounds.
Yes, yes. And again, I think it does what the greatest music does. It drives one inward to one's own resources. Ultimately.
Oh, I think it was a brilliant little strategy he had.
Yes, it is. I don't fail to concede it has a comic overtone
Well,
still. I mean,
it can only be a miniature.
yes.
It can be only maybe we could call it a binary sonata, silent of Scarlatti, because all of his sonatas are about 431.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Who knows? Who knows what the shadow knows in the brains and the insides
Yes.
of artists? There is greatness personified.
Yes.
What goes on inside a Stravinsky? It's different from my milkman.
Mm.
Do we have milkmen anymore? No.
No, that's unfortunate.
So many things are now missing from the human agenda that we took for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying anything of interest to any of you? I hope that you will subscribe. I hope that you will tell us about what we're talking about. For I think that, in my opinion, talking to Jack it relieves me of many things that I want to say. And I want to say them to you, and I would love to hear, of course, what you want to say. So you should all have one of these platforms, I guess, right?
Yes, or again, please subscribe and comment, and we will continue to try to fill this platform with what we can.
I think so, and if unless you have something very important at this moment to give our vast audience of what, 4 million, 400 million? I don't know, I forgot. We can just shut up for today.
I don't know that we are shutting up because, David, again, these are the peak experiences of my week as well, to hear what you say, because you just burden my own unanswered questions when I speak to you. But I think perhaps we will defer until our next episode and say that...
Then I say goodbye to you
David.
today.
Yes.
And thank you for coming again. I know that, you put your cape on and you're able to fly away.
Well, I will try to negotiate Metropolis as well as I can.
Yes, Metropolis. Where is Metropolis of the old days?
I think it's still here to a degree.
It is.
All right.
If you think it is.
Yes, okay.
It is. And I would just like to have a lot of Jack Coles around.
Oh, David, you're too kind. I just know again that these are the gems of my days to speak to you. Thank you.
Please say and give my best to your parents.
I will, thank you.
See you next time, and
Okay.
Thank you for listening, really.
Thank you. And I'll have to do a manual goodbye today because I forgot my little clicker, as you know. So I will say goodbye to the audience as I stand and disappear.